This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to The Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast since 2015. I am recording this pretty early in the morning, so if it sounds like it's pretty early in the morning, it's because it's pretty early in the morning. So you are my first words of the day, great love listeners. So recently, somebody said to me, I listen to your show all the time, and it's where I take all my dating advice from. And I thought, A, thank you. And then I thought, B, yikes. I mean, we appreciate the listeners and the feedback and the fandom and the engagement and all of it. That's what we're doing around here, and that's what we hope to get. But I'm not sure we're giving advice as much as a forum for thoughts, you know, with our own opinions sprinkled in. And now, do those opinions come from an educated and informed place? Usually. And are those opinions always right? Of course not. You know, it's sort of, you know, they're not supposed to be one size fits all. So some things we say or some things other people say on this podcast, you might be like, well, that doesn't work for me. And that's totally fine. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be listening to us because we're not always right. We usually are right. Thank you very much. But it got me wondering, who should you be listening to? You know, who are the voices who should influence your feelings and love decisions and relationship choices and even sort of where you want to go in your life and in your love life, you know? So I sat down and I made sort of this list of the candidates, the people or the entities besides us that you should be listening to. So I'm not going to give you a list of other podcasts who you should be listening to. You should be listening to this one. But it's sort of a list of the voices. And I guess, you know, the way to weed through that and to sort that out is to start, as always, which we like to do around here, with a question. And that is, what are you listening for? And what are you trying to answer or discover? Hear that? It's early in the morning. Sorry. And it can be a combination of things. Some people listen to this show, you know, for entertainment, which should always be the primary reason you listen to anything is for entertainment. And some people listen to the show because they like the comfort of the camaraderie, that we're all sort of figuring this out together. You know, that we're all sort of down in the dating muck. And some listen to it because they like the questions that we raise. And some listen because they like the answers that we give. And then there's a fraction of you who just hate listen because you disagree with all of it, but you can't turn away. And we love you people most of all. We love you sickos most of all who just sit there and listen and get mad. God bless you. Anyway, I'm going to start at the end and work backwards. I used to teach people how to write books. And I would always advise them to write the last sentence or the final paragraph first so they had something to work towards, a goal, sort of a final destination. You know, and I used to tell them that oftentimes by the time they got to the end, the ending had actually changed or was no longer relevant, and that's perfectly fine. So the ending to this podcast is really that you shouldn't really listen to anyone because nobody knows anything, and every situation is different, and every circumstance has qualifiers and exceptions and nuance and all the rest. So you can get close to answers, but never absolute certainty. It's sort of like if you play that old game where you start out 2 yards from the wall and then you take a step towards the wall and then you do it again, but you cut the distance in half and you keep doing it and you keep cutting the distance in half, but you keep going towards the wall, but you never actually get there. You know, you're never going to get there for sure with certainty with the answers, but the uncertainty is part of the fun. It's the excitement. You don't want to know the ending, just like you really don't want to know the answer. You know, you want the answer to be presented to you. You want it to just happen. I mean, do you want to know the day, date, and method in which you die? I don't think you do. I don't. I think most people don't want to know that answer, whether it's a long time away or it's short time away. I think you just don't want to know. Do you want to know the day, date, method in which you fall in love? I also don't think you do want to know that, but you should know that they're both inevitable. Both those things are going to happen as long as you keep living and moving forward towards that wall. So you shouldn't listen to anyone else, but you also can't listen to yourself. You know? So if we could truly trust ourselves in love and dating relationships, we would have no problems, right? But we can't. So you don't. So if you can't trust others and you can't trust yourself, who can you trust for answers? So we're going to get into that in a bit. Believing that you're alone in the dating wilderness with no one or nowhere to turn for guidance, that's a scary thing. So if you want to turn to us once in a while, great, because it's scary out there. But sit down, my children. There are ways to find a bit of comfort in that and all of this, and to be able to absorb from others around you in a way that will benefit you, in the way that you need, and in a way that is healthy and balanced and sane. Okay? So put sane over here for a second, because we're going to start with your friends. And some say, I always ask my best girlfriends or my circle or my coven for advice on a new guy-girl date situation. And that's fine, but I'm not sure that helps, because I'm not sure they're relevant, because they have no idea about that person that you might like, or how you are together, or what you feel, or anything else that matters. Now, if you're asking them questions because you want some positive reinforcement, fine. If you ask them, hey, this girl I'm dating likes to go burn houses down on Saturday nights, what do you think? I'm not sure your friend's opinion really matters, because if you don't know the answer to that question yourself, I'm not sure what they're going to say is going to make a bit of difference to you. If they can see the red flags, trust me, so can you. You are just choosing not to. So usually you are asking them because you want some sort of validation. You want a seconding of your opinion, a reinforcement in the way that you already think and believe and feel, you know? And your friends, no matter how good of a friend they are, there's always a small chance or a big chance that their answer won't always be honest or given for the most pure of reasons. There are cases where a friend, even a really, really close, good friend, either consciously or unconsciously, might be jealous of your situation. Or they don't want you to get too close with someone because it means you will be less close with them. That doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them less of a friend, but it might make them give bad answers. So hear them out, ask the questions, but take caution with what you hear. And the same goes with family. A lot of people are like, they even do that on The Bachelor. They make you go home and meet the family, get the family's opinion. And I don't care how close you are with your family, or how open the dialogue is, or how well you believe they know you, or how much they want the best for you. They're still on the outside looking in when it comes to your dating life. They don't know what truly goes on in your head or your heart, hopefully not your bedroom or any of it, nor can they assess with absolute certainty what is good, bad, right, wrong with your partner or potential partner. So just like me, they're giving you an educated opinion, which is great, but that isn't necessarily an answer, and it isn't necessarily an answer you want or you are seeking. Sometimes people ask questions of those around them just to say the questions out loud. Keiko, who produces this podcast, she's a huge believer in spitballing stuff, like sort of running it up the flagpole for public consumption. And I think it's a really admirable quality because she isn't necessarily looking for an answer, and she's not afraid to be judged in asking the question. She believes there's no such thing as bad questions, and she's probably right on that. She's looking for feedback that will get her to the answer. And I find that kind of ballsy and fearless in sort of a public, I'm not sure about this, but let me say it out loud and you can watch me figure it out. That's not bad, right? That's not a bad way to go about things, but it comes with a disclaimer. If you let people know that you aren't sure about something, I think that's actually going to get a far better result than if you say, this is what I think, tell me why I'm right or wrong. The uncertainty is going to give you, I think, a little bit more certainty because you're going to get a little more honest feedback, which in that vein is what a good therapist does. So you're thinking, is that it? Is that who I should listen to, my therapist? Well, no, not if they're a good therapist. A good therapist listens to you. A good therapist, which everyone should want and should find and figure out a way to pay for because they really will change your life. A good therapist is someone who allows you to find the answer on your own, or at least get headed towards it. Do they often know what the answer most likely is going to be long before you do? They do, because they've seen your situation a ton of times. And almost all of our situations come from the same handful and pool of triggers and traumas and incidents. But they aren't going to tell you that because that's not their job. Telling you in the first session, oh, I get it, your mother left when you were 6, so you have abandonment issues. Well, that might be the answer, an answer, and that might be the answer, but there's no value in that answer unless you understand the question and how it's manifested itself in your life and in your relationships. So just telling you that doesn't, you sort of have to work backwards from that. Why did that trigger the abandonment issues? How did that trigger them? When, where, with whom? So even a right answer to a good question might just lead to more questions that need more answers. So even the best aren't necessarily going to be the source of your satisfaction on this stuff. Now some of you, could be a lot of you or could be a few of you, I really have no idea, want to find your relationship answers through your faith. And that could be the clergy, or it could be the scripture, Bible, Torah, Koran, or from God himself, that somewhere in there you believe that is the best path to all your answers, or that a deep belief in faith and your fate is going to reveal them to you, So I'm not going to opine on those things because that gets me in trouble around here. But let me just say this. God is really busy, okay? I don't think she cares or has the time to deal with whether or not you should swipe right on that guy with the cute haircut and the Ivy League law degree, It's a little bit laziness to take the control and the dating outcome and put it in the hands of a higher power. You get to the fork in the road and you can pray on it all you want, but ultimately that fork is your choice, your decision, and ultimately your power. You want to have that power, and I believe your higher being gave you that power. It's your power to seek that answer yourself, to make the right or wrong decision, and to live with the outcome. I would want it to be that way. Wouldn't you? I want to have some degree of control over it. A lot of Catholics, of which I used to be one back in the day, go to priests for marriage counseling, or even some pre-marriage stuff. Pre-cana, is that what it's called? Pre-cana. And my mother used to say, that's crazy. What does a priest know about male-female relationships? And I feel about the way she felt about it, the same way people who criticize me for hosting this show despite never marrying. The skill that the priest has, and it's a valuable skill, is in facilitating dialogue and increasing communication and raising the right questions, which is what we do. Maybe I'm a priest. Father Brian. There we go. I don't think those priests are giving answers, and I don't think your local rabbi or Joel Osteen or God himself are providing answers. They're illuminating the questions so you can see and find the path to the answers. So again, who should I be listening to? That isn't what's important. What's important is who should be listening to you. Who is the one that is on the receiving end of your thoughts and words and worries and hopes? Because the right one listening to you is going to lead you the right way. You think you're listening to me here. You are listening to you, the collective you, because that is where everything that we say around here comes from. Does that make sense? Sit with that for a second. We're going to expand on that. We will be back right after this. Now, you're probably thinking, I like to talk to my coworkers about this stuff. They're sort of neutral and unbiased, and when I meet them in the conference room, they'll give me honest feedback. Maybe, but they're your coworkers, and you don't work at Dunder Mifflin, They do not want or should not want to give you feedback or gather insight in on your dating history. It's not the place for it. It's a breeding ground for gossip. It's inappropriate. You might as well be talking to strangers, and you might as well go talk to strangers. If you want to find an Uber driver or a bartender or an exotic dancer to blather on about the cute girl next door who may or may not want to go out with you, have at it. It might be cheaper than therapy, and it might ultimately be better than therapy. Except the stripper. That might get pricey. She might not give you the answers because you keep paying her. That's fine, and God bless her. But it all comes back to what we spoke about earlier, saying things out loud, asking the questions. You can get much better at tennis and baseball just by whacking it against the wall for hours and hours. I did that as a kid a lot, and I did get better.